This is Metal Mike, and in this episode I talk with guitar virtuoso from Heavens Edge, Reggie Wu. We hear about what the band has been up to in recent years and revisit their classic debut album. Reggie also shares some thoughts and memories on Jeff LaBar. Check it out. Reggie, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Catch everybody up with what you've been up to lately. What have you been up to?
Well, Heavens Edge, we took a long break. When grunge knocked us out, we pretty much took a long break. And then back in 2013, Kieran Dargan over from the Firefest Festival asked us, he had started calling a bunch of years and said, come on out to London and play. We got this killer Firefest Festival, and I was just like, we're good, we're kind of winding things down, and finally, after my wife beat breast cancer back in 2013, I said, you know what, you only live once, let's go.
Right.
So we got the band back together, and we went out there, and it was unbelievable to have all those people knew all our songs, and we're like, this is killer, so after that show, we said, let's do a couple of these things every now and then, they have, the M3s and the Monsters of Rock cruises. Oh, we did come home and do a local show, and we just we had such a great time that we said, let's do, 1 to 3 shows a year just to have some fun and get to pretend we're a rock star for a weekend, or a week on the cruise, and so we started doing that, and we've been really having a great time, and that's pretty much what we're doing. Very, very sadly, we lost George, our bass player, last year.
Right, yes.
Actually, was it last year? It was August of the year before, and that was just brutal. And because George was, the best thing about doing these festivals, M3, and the thing is, most of the time we were one of the only bands, one of the few bands that was all 5 original members. Mm. You get up there and it's Rat, but really it's just like Stephen Pearcy and one other guy maybe.
Right.
But with us, it was all 5 original members, which I was really proud of, and so that was very cool. But I was saying, very sadly, we lost George, and that was crushing. That was crushing to us. And we picked up a guy named Jaron, and he friggin' just came in and just tore it up, just blew our minds. He just knew every song, and he plays in a band called Tantric. They had a couple of hits out in the 90s. Mm-hmm. He's young. He's the young guy. And we were joking, we're going to, be Menudo, when you reach a certain age, you're out, and we'll replace you with somebody young.
Right. Like Kiss wants to do.
So he's a young guy. He's in early 30s and good looking, So, we'll use him as our poster boy because we're all the old guys now. And, but so we did the last Monsters of Rock cruise with him, and we had such a great time. He did such a fabulous job. He just came in and kicked ass. In a way, this allows us to keep George's name alive. He will always be with us, and so that's what we've been doing. And we were supposed to do M3 a couple of weeks ago, but one of the guys in the band got sick, and we had to cancel. But we just committed to that Monsters on the Mountain or something. Monsters on the Mountain. I'm not even sure what it's called. It's in Tennessee.
Okay.
So we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that in October. So that's what we're doing right now. We do have some news that I can't share right now, but hopefully we'll be able to announce it in the next couple of weeks. But
cool.
Things are moving along. At this point of our lives, we're just having fun with it. Me and Mark writing songs and just the pressure's off. So we're not trying to be rock stars anymore or whatever. We're just having fun and just love the guys in the band. We're all like brothers, so that's awesome. And whenever we get together, we pick right up where we left off. We could not see each other for 6 months, and we get back together, and it's a love fest. We all really get along really well. So that's a great thing.
It's funny, though, you say, you got this young guy because you guys are all looking older, but you guys all still look pretty good, man, especially Mark. He's still got the hair.
Oh, what is up with that? I started, for one of the shows, I've always had long hair my whole life, and then I cut it, and for one of these last things, I'm like, okay, I'm growing it back. It, stopped at my neck. I'm like, what the hell? But at the same time, I'm happy just to have hair.
That's true. At least you're not going bald, or you're not bald. So.
Yeah, so I'm happy to have it, so. Although, the bald or the short look looks great on a lot of people. Mark Tremonti, my favorite guitar player, looks freaking killer, with the short hair. So it's all about the perception, I guess, Now I look at those guys and I'm like, wow, they look great.
Yeah. Definitely. Now, you talked about writing some songs with Mark. Any chance that you guys will ever do another album?
I mean, there's talks about it, you know, and that could be the news that we could be releasing soon. You know, we're just in talks right now, so I can't really get into it. But, you know, me and Mark have always really enjoyed writing, and, you know, even through all these last couple of years, I would just send him ideas, and we would just have fun with it. And we'd even explore different areas, you know, not so much Heavens Edgy, you know, and just write whatever came out, and that's what makes it fun, you know. So
how do you explain?
He's like my brother.
Yeah, well, where's the chemistry come from? Like, obviously, like for the first album, you guys wrote all the songs together. What's the connection musically? Same influences, or what is it?
Yeah, I guess we have a lot of the same influences. We did not grow up together, so it's very bizarre. When we got together, and our first 18 songs, in those first 18, Skin to Skin and Find Another Way were in there, you know? And it just clicked. It just totally clicked. When I first met Mark, he was playing in a band called Network, and they were the biggest cover/original band in South Jersey. And I was just like, whoa, that dude's a freaking rock star, man. And he'll never leave the band. And we just started writing, and it just clicked. And then he left the band, and here we are, 30 years later. Is that how many years it is now?
It is, yeah.
Nuts. I
31.
can't 30-something years later.
Exactly.
Like 87 I met him. That's a lot of years.
Now, does it blow your mind that people still love this album and are still discovering it all these years later?
It completely blows my mind. And I think a lot of that credit also has to go to Neil Kernan. I think sonically he produced a really strong album.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds dated, but it still sounds good. You know, the production that Neil put on the record, I think he did such a fabulous job that it still sounds good to this day, and so that's credit to him. Yeah, but I'm just like, holy cow! Like we started doing these Monsters of Rock cruises, and we're a little band on these cruises. You know, I'm in the dining hall, and I'm like, oh my God, Nuno Betancourt eats food just like me. You know, like to me, he's like a freaking god. You know, I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my God, there's the guys in Queensroy. They eat food like me too. So, you know, because these are bands that I idolized growing up. You know, so we're the little band on the cruise, and every time we played, the crowds have gotten bigger and bigger. And I don't know, we just did our third or fourth one just last year, right before the COVID hit. And I mean, we literally got home like 2 weeks before COVID hit. And
Yep,
I remember going on there's like some kind of Asian flu going on, but I'm like, that's in San Francisco or something. I think we should be safe. And like little did we know that we would get home and the whole world would fall apart.
Right.
But back to the cruise, like, you know, the last one we did, like it was the best crowd that we ever had. I'm like, wow, it's growing. It's like the old days. You're trying to build the following, you know, because a lot of the people on there have never heard of us.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they're there to see the Night Rangers and the Vince Neils and the Stephen Piercy's, you know, of the world, and the Slaughters, you know. So it has been very gratifying to just watch us grow again.
When you go back to that first album, what are some of your favorite tracks?
I'd say definitely Find Another Way. It's one of my favorites, obviously. Come Play the Game.
Yeah. That's
definitely one of my favorites. I even like, you know, the ballads, the Hold On, Daddy's Little Girl, always like that one. And I have to say I like the whole record. I don't know why.
No, it's a great album. I mean, I've been listening to it since 1990, so yeah, I love it.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I think we went in to do that. We had like 80 songs to do for that record to choose from. And like, you know, trying to do it with Columbia Records, I remember still being short, you know, that like they couldn't find 12 songs that they liked. I'm just like, wow. At least that's the memories I have of it, you know.
Yeah, it's funny because those are the three that I have jotted down. Is Daddy's Little Girl. I always like that song. It's a little heavier, you know, than some of the other tracks on there. And Find Another Way is probably my favorite Heavens Edge song. And, you know, I think when I talked with Mark, he kind of told me like there was a plan for that to be a video and a single, and then everything kind of started to fall apart with the record label and with grunge. And when you go back and you think about that time, how did you feel in that moment when those kind of things were happening, when it was kind of falling apart?
Well, it was nuts because the climb to get the record deal was spectacular. Like right out of the box, you know, we were just selling out wherever we were playing because I come from White Fox, Mark come from Network, so we had a good name. And so right out of the box, it was like, wow. You know, I remember our first three shows were like sold out. It was incredible. And And the ride up for those 2 or 3 years was unbelievable. And then the second, Donnie Iyer decided that he'd Find Another Way was the worst song he ever heard in his life, and then we got dropped from the label. The ride down was brutal. It's like, oh my God, we used to play these places that were sold out. Now they're half full, and we go back again, they're a quarter full. So it was definitely a big time blow to the ego.
Sure.
Just you're used to playing sold out places to now not even a quarter filling it up. So it definitely brings you back down to earth again.
Yeah. Now, did you try to do another band when Heavens Edge broke up? Did you try and do any other bands? Did you ever try to do a grunge band or any of that kind of stuff, or were you just done at that point?
No, I absolutely did. So Mark said, I'm out.
Right.
I need to go and make some money. So he started a band, I think it was called The Pack, and, they were, pretty much like a cover band, if I remember correctly, and they were doing well. So me, Dave, and George said, we still love playing with each other. So we started a band called American Pie. We got a singer named Sean Jordan. We tried to do the whole flannel shirt and grunge thing. The music was a lot heavier, and it just wasn't true. Like, people can see through that.
Right.
We weren't grungy, miserable. Not that grunge people were miserable, but, there is a truth to, where Kurt Cobain killed himself. He wasn't happy,
Right.
It just wasn't us. We weren't a grunge band, and I didn't mean that to come out saying that the grunge people were miserable, but you know what I'm saying.
I know.
That was not us, and it just didn't work, And we showcased, we put out, all our contacts, and it just never happened. Mm-hmm. And that's when after a couple of years of that, we were like, you know what, this sucks, and let's call it a day. And like my drummer said, that turning point there in 93, 94, that set us up to where we are now. We were forced to find another life. Mm-hmm. I was forced to start to become a guitar teacher. Mm-hmm. Dave was forced to start, trying to get on the business side of music. And it forced us to, make a living. Now we're starting to have families. I was always the guy in the band who always had a family. So I always had to make a living. But, once the Heavens Edge and American Pie broke up, it forced us to really have to find another life. And in some way, that was a godsend because, we found our other lives. And it's funny, we have a new song called What Could Have Been. And Mark wrote the lyrics, and I love the lyrics. And it's not like what could have been if we became rock stars. Well, it's kind of that. But it's the other way around. If we became rock stars, we wouldn't have our families, and we wouldn't have 2/3 of our family, I would only have my one daughter who was born during the Heavens Edge days. And so it's such an interesting way to look at it. And we, like Dave said, we got a little sneak. We got to look what it feels like to be around on the other side of the curtain, the other side of the Wizard of Oz. And we got to see how awesome it was. But when I see, those bands still, out there just touring, that's not for me.
Right.
I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy I love my family. It's what it's all about. And, I'm happy that I'm still alive. And, who knows what would have happened had we headed that way,
Yep. No, I was going to say this, too, is that you guys are really in an interesting spot, and it's really a good spot, is because, like you said, you established your lives kind of like in the regular world, after all this. And now you can go out and like you said, go out on a weekend and play a gig and play some big gigs like these festivals and whatnot. But then you get to go back to your regular life. And like you said, a lot of these guys are out there doing it, and they're just, they're just playing to survive. And I don't know if a lot of people want to live that way. You know what I mean? It's there's things in life, and you hate to say it, but it's nice to have health insurance or retirement plan or whatever, you know what I mean? And sometimes if you're just out there playing bars for 30 years, I don't know if you have all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like I heard the Lynch Mob, they played this little place over here in Philly called Dobbs, and this was going back a couple of years, and they were the budget, the record company backing's gone, and they were going from gig to gig in a van, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that,
Right.
I just, I don't know, I'm not a teenager, but I'm not in my 20s anymore,
Right.
Like you said, we have established, a life, and like you said, I don't know if you could do that, doing that staying in that whole grind, because it's a grind.
Yeah.
The best part's that after on stage. The other 23 hours, you're just trying to survive.
Exactly. Now, I got to ask you this one. So obviously, you're still playing guitar, you're teaching guitar. When you go back and you listen to like the first album and your guitar work, do you listen to it and say like, wow, like, yeah, I can't believe, the fret work I was doing on this one? Or do you also listen to it and say in certain respects like, oh, geez, I would do this different today? What are some of the things you think of as an adult listening to this stuff you did when you were younger?
Well, both. Exactly what you just said. So I listened to it, and I'm like I was learning this, like we have the song "Play Dirty." Like I'm like, that is the worst solo in the world. There's absolutely not 1 second of soul in there. I think I was just trying to play as fast as I could, So I listen to it now, and I'm like, just cringe. I'm just like, oh my god, it's awful. It's like, I don't even think I bend a note on there. I was just. So in that sense, I'm like, I cringe. On the other sense, I'm like, wow, my chops were so much better than they are now. Right now, my chops are just are down. I'm fighting arthritis in my picking hand, and then to compensate for that, I'm doing a lot of legato stuff with my left hand, and now my left hand's hurting. I'm like, wow, this really sucks. But you know what? I always say these are first world problems. I have no room to complain,
Right.
So on both ends, I'm like, holy cow, like. My chops were much better than they are now, but on the other end, I'm like, man, I really did not have a lot of soul in me.
And trust me, Reggie, I'm not trying to take it as a knock, because to me it all sounds really good. But I'm just thinking that somebody who's played all these years, what's the perspective, when you're in your 50s versus your 20s, you know what I mean, or whatever. I'm just trying to see how you would look at it, all these years later.
Yeah, no, that's funny, because it's the way you said it. I feel both ways about it.
Yeah.
I just I think like if I had to go back and do it, I would definitely do a lot of things differently. I would try to add a little bit of feel to it. I was so like back then it was just about shred, and more shred.
Right.
How many notes can you pack it solo? And I was in my Yngwie phase, but what's crazy about Yngwie? He plays with such shred, but yet there is a fire underneath him.
Yeah.
He does play with soul and a lot of feel. And that's what makes him special.
So you talk about Yngwie, and I love him too. So who are he's an influence, I'm assuming. Who else are some of your guitar heroes?
Well, my path always was Richie Blackmore was my first, and still one of my favorites. Richie Blackmore, and then Eddie Van Halen. Just completely changed my life. I saw that, them opening for Sabbath, and that was a game changer that night. I was just like, holy moly! So it definitely went Blackmore, Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, big time, loved Randy Rhoads, and then Yngwie, and then Nuno Bettencourt, and then these days I'm really loving Mark Tremonti.
Ah, okay.
Tremonti, love Alter Bridge. They're just a tremendous band. They remind me of like Zeppelin, They're not hit oriented. They're not worried about anything. Every song's like epic, and that's what they're about. And I love that about them. And I just heard Tremonti's releasing a new single tomorrow morning. Can't wait to hear it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. What about some of the other bands that came out around your time? Are there some 80s bands that you really enjoy even listening to today?
It's funny. I don't really listen to a lot of the 80s bands at all. But I admired all of them. I think that guy from White Line, Vito Grotto, incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Every band like from that generation era, I don't even know how, had killer guitar players, from Warren DeMartini to George Lynch. Every band had a great guitar player. Richie Sambora was terrific with Bon Jovi. It definitely showcased the guitar more. And then, of course, you have, the top of the world, people like the Satrianis and the Vais, they're like from another planet, the Petrucci's, those guys are just insane. Definitely Nuno Bettencourt's one of my favorites right now. For the last, 10 years, the guy just blows my mind. I guess ever since the first record came out, I've been a fan of him. And it's funny. We were out to dinner with their manager. I guess at the time it was Louis Levin, and this is when I knew nothing of Extreme. And there was just the talk on the street. Oh, A&M, I think they were saying A&M has this new band, and the guitar player sounds a lot like Eddie Van Halen. And I remember saying that at dinner with Lewis, and who I'm still friends with these days. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I heard he's like an Eddie Van Halen clone. And Lewis is like, you have no idea what you said, but wait till you see this kid. And you know, now obviously it's become one of my favorite guitar players. The guy's just mind-blowing, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely something else, man. We got some real sad news last week about Jeff LaBar. Any memories or thoughts you want to share about him?
Oh, God. So first of all, me and Jeff go way back. And he played in a band called White Fox. I don't. They might have been called Precious Metal at the time, but it was with the guys from White Fox. And then I joined White Fox. Then we both auditioned for Cinderella at the time. When Cinderella was, the Cinderella got signed by the label, but the label wanted them to replace the drummer and the guitar player. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just being the local guys, we went in, and me and Jeff and I guess Sabo from Skid Row, I think he auditioned as well. It's funny, I have this interview, I'll send it to you. It's actually, me and Jeff are part of this movie. It's a rockumentary about a club called Hammerjacks down in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And, and the director sent me the clips of me and Jeff talking about each other about that audition. And Jeff was just breaking my balls about, you know, how I sat right in front of him during his audition. But, you know, it was great. He totally fit the bill so much better than me because, you know, I was like in my Ying Bang Malmsteen phase. And, you know, they would, you know, it's funny. I was saying it in this interview, like they're doing like nobody's full, and I'm like playing as fast as I can. It just did not fit at all. And Jeff just fit the bill 1,000 times better than me. He was a monster on stage, monster guitar player, great guy, and I'm absolutely crushed about his death, like his passing. Just me and the guys were just talking in Heavens Edge about it. Were really affected by this, just because, you know, they were the first band that out of our genre to really make it, and we were just really rooting for them. Yep. And you know, and it was just awesome to see them skyrocket, and just to make it seem like, wow, it can be done from Philadelphia. Yeah, you know, because prior to that, all the Sunset Strip, you know, and just so to see the boys in Cinderella go on to such great fame, and they're just all good guys, Tom and Eric and Fred. They're just good. And Jeff, I mean, I'm just absolutely devastated for them. And our new bass player, Jaron, because we had lost Gigi last year to cancer. Mm-hmm. Jaron's our new bass player, and he plays in a band called Tantric, and that's with Jeff's son, Sebastian.
Oh, so, okay.
And, you know, so we have that connection there. And Sebastian's just a rock star, and so is Jaron. Jaron and Sebastian are just freaking the next generation rock stars, and but it's just absolutely so sad for Sebastian to lose his dad, and you know, and I just sent him a message the other day, just saying how sorry I was, and I really am. This one hit me, you know, hit me hard.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've never met Jeff. I didn't know him, but people from my generation, I'm about 45, and a lot of us, we kind of came up into music with Cinderella. You know, maybe that was Night Songs was one of your first albums that you bought. I know Cinderella was the second concert I ever seen. So big part of my childhood, watching the videos on MTV. So yeah, when it happened, it really did. It hit me pretty hard, and I noticed it hit a lot of people online on social media hard as well, because it's a big part of people's lives.
Absolutely. I bailed on Facebook last year. Just couldn't handle it anymore. It's just too addicting, and people just battling. I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
So, but I went back on. You know, after Jeff's passing, just to see the tributes to him, and wow, just he affected so many people. You know, and really crazy. My drummer said this thing to me the other day. So my drummer went to Villanova. He was friends with Gail Labarr, and Gail introduced Dave, my drummer, to Jeff, and Jeff's like, you got to forget this Villanova scene. You got to get over to this place called the Galaxy in Somerdale, New Jersey. And Dave came over, and that's where he met us, and that's where he got the Heavens Edge gig. And he was saying without Jeff, you know, he wouldn't have Heavens Edge. He wouldn't have met Debbie, who's my wife's sister, and they had a child together who was Angela. So in And through Heavens Edge, my drummer, he became vice president of A&R up at Roadrunner Records.
That's right, right.
It's so weird how like one little thing, like Gail and Jeff saying go to the Galaxy, altered his life, and that really had such an impact. And I was like, wow, dude, that's heavy duty. That really gave me the chills. You wouldn't have a lot if it weren't for those guys.
That's crazy. When as a guitar player, what are some things that you really liked about his playing?
He was just everything that he played was just perfect for the song. Everything that he played, it was he wasn't trying to overdo anything or underdo anything. It just fit the song perfect. And the guy was, like I said before, he's a monster on stage. And his son Sebastian right after him. They're just one of those, some of those people that just like Eddie Van Halen. He just looked great on stage. No matter what picture's taken, they look great. And
he did.
He definitely had that going for him.
I was watching some live clips, after he passed, and I watched some of the Moscow Peace Festival, and that was a monster stage, huge, and this guy was owning it. He was running from side to side, and then there's times where, he's doing little licks, and he's kicking, and then he's spinning his guitar. He really was the total package, with the live situation. It was amazing.
So great, and it was just awesome to watch him, really make it big. I mean, they probably are I guess the Hooters are big from Philly and Hall & Oates, but I don't know, from our genre, they're the biggest, at least in my eyes. I can't really think of anybody else.
Yeah.
Brittany Fox is pretty big.
I was going to ask you this, but you pretty much have already said it. So you really think they paved the way for bands like you and Brittany Fox and other bands from Philly?
Absolutely. All of a sudden, the floodgates opened after they made it. After that, it was Brittany, and then us, Tangier,
right?
And
Tangier, yep.
All of a sudden, bands from this area were like making it, and by making, I mean getting record deals. Obviously Cinderella's the only one that went on to platinum records. I think Brittany Fox had a bunch of gold or platinum records, but unfortunately we were on the tail end of that.
Yeah.
By the time our record came out, grunge had started to come in a little bit, and that beat us down a little bit, but it's all good. It's all for a reason,
Definitely, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you sharing some thoughts and some memories on Jeff. Hey, it's been great talking with you about all this stuff, man. I appreciate your time. Anything you want to say to the fans that have been following you all these years?
No, well, we just want to say thank you for everything, all the support all these years. You guys have been awesome. I mean, it keeps us going to this day. Hopefully, like I said, in the next month or so, might have some really good news we might be able to announce, and we're really excited for it. We're looking to get back out there. We are doing the Monsters of the Mountain, and hopefully we'll do some. I think we are doing M3 next year. Just the things, and definitely a couple local shows here in Philly. But thank you for having me, and thank everybody out there for all the support.
Well, that was great chatting with Reggie. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing that's coming. Rock on!